welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello and welcome to the School of Love, the place where we learn practical tools based on scientific research and our own experience towards improving ourselves, living life to its fullest, and contributing to the best of our abilities to the world around us. I'm Dr. Maria Grajdian, and I am a professor of media studies and anthropology at Hiroshima University. In my free time, I am doing my best to guide you in building up a life of contentment, joy, and fulfillment while applying lessons learned in school to overcome the difficulties, challenges, and insecurities of the real world. In today's video, I talk about the novel The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by the Japanese writer Murakami Haruki. In international literary circles, Murakami Haruki's writings are often situated at the crossroads between enthusiastic readers with corresponding financial results and discontented critics who crushingly categorize them, so Murakami's writings, as consumption or trash literature. Comparable with Paulo Coelho's literary works, Murakami Haruki's writings, both novels and short stories, offer, though, unexpectedly keen insights into the aesthetic ideological mechanisms of syncretic cultural structures of late modernity, and thus a further common characteristics his writings share with Coelho works. In this video, I analyze musical elements in Murakami's novels with particular focus on the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle as a means to construct a late modern form of artistic syncretism, while taking into account the stress ratio between the popular reception of Murakami's literature and the critical rejection it faces coming from the literary establishment in Japan on the one hand, as well as the subtle tension between the contents and the formal tackling of that very content on the other hand. I start with a short introduction in Murakami Haruki's life and work, and then I delve more deeply into the literary details of intertwining musical elements within the narrative architecture in the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. And now, first things first, that is two important disclaimers. The first disclaimer serves to strongly emphasize the fact that this YouTube channel, The School of Love, is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. Together, we can build up a better tomorrow for as many of us as possible. The second disclaimer relates to the fact that I am a trained musician and musicologist, not a psychologist, therapist, or counselor. The ideas I am sharing in my videos reflect my deep-going preoccupation with life, my own life and other people's lives, and express the results of my experiences, research, and for better or for worse, my failures and my recovery from those failures. Recovery which is still ongoing. The ideas expressed in the videos on this channel, the School of Love, cannot and may not and must not replace the consultation with specialists in whichever areas of your life you might have questions or you might struggle with. If you are new to the channel, at this moment I would like to ask you to please consider subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. Thank you very, very much. This helps us not only with that mysterious algorithm which seems to dominate the YouTube galaxy, but also with contributing to the expansion of the community of humans doing their best to impact positively the world and those around them by discovering their authentic selves and living life wholeheartedly. Thanks again. And now back to today's topic, to today's real topic, which is the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle and its interpretation from a perspective of musical elements. So I will start this video by offering a couple of details related to Murakami Haruki's biography, and then I'll deliver major characteristics of the novel, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, continuing with an analysis of its characters and with a comparative analysis in the more general context of Murakami's writings, and finishing up with a detailed commentary on the significance of the novel within Murakami Haruki's and within Japan's contemporary literature. So Murakami Haruki was born in 1949 in Kyoto in Western Japan, and he's famous. He has published throughout his life many novels, and as well as numerous short stories and essay, both fictional writings and non-fiction as well. He's also known for having provided various translations from Anglo-Saxon, so English-speaking writers into Japanese. In these videos on this channel so far, I have talked about Norwegian Wood or Norway no Mori from 1987, which has served to propel Murakami Haruki into celebrity, and also delivered several of his major characteristics, of the characteristic which will make him famous later on. This ne ji maki Tori Chronicle, published between 1994 and 1995, it's a relatively massive novel, which I'm going to talk about today. And another one very important novel which I deal with in another video is 1Q84 or Ichikyu Hachion in Japanese, which was published in 2009 and 2010. It's important to understand that Murakami Haruki's novels explore with various dimensions of human existence, and while some people might regard it as as superficial and at times highly misogynistic, it reflects at a level some people might feel uncomfortable with acknowledging the tensions and the sense of discontinuity, very, very noticeable in the Japanese society since the 70s, and particularly since the 80s onwards, so towards today. Talking about major characteristics in the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, one may say that it initiates the phase in Murakami's creation identified by critics as the one marked by the transition from detachment to commitment. The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle distinguishes itself through its rhapsodic style, oscillating between a single voice narrating individual quests and struggles, and the intertwining with a secondary voice remembering historical events and national traumas. They unify at the end in a conclusive monody, this inner structure being regularly challenged by the leitmotif-like reappearance of the main area from Gioacchino Rossini's opera, the thieving magpie, La Gazza Ladra, from 1817, with a libretto by Giovanni Gherardini, based on the play La Pie Voleuse by Théodore Baudrin d'Aubigny and Louis-Charles Cagnier from 1815. This at times ambiguous, at times strikingly clear-cut heterophonic structure, a discourse, reveals deeper entanglements between collective remembering practices and individual strategies of forgetting, between wishful thinking and hope against hope, between the nostalgia for comfort and the drive to succeed, all mixed up within a larger narrative about the meaning of marriage in late modernity and the significance of freedom beyond temporal and spatial limitations. Published between South of Border, West of the Sun, or Kokkyo no Minami Taiyo no Nishi from 1992, and Sputnik Sweetheart, or in Japanese, Sputnik no Koibito from 1999, the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, in Japanese, ne ji maki Tori Chronicle, published between 1994 and 1995, is the story of Okada Toru, a passive and often apathetic young man living in suburban Japan, currently unemployed and bossed around by his wife. He suddenly finds himself in a deepening and accelerating whirlpool of events, triggered by the disappearance of his cat in the beginning of the first part of the novel, which is called The Thieving Magpie, followed by the sudden and equally mysterious disappearance of his wife, Kumiko, as the second part starts, the second part being called Bird as Prophet. The strange course of events evolves into a dramatic third part titled The Birdcatcher, the largest and most most complex in terms of dramatic progression, culminating in a disenchanting resolution transcending reality and fantasy, and immersing the narrative line into the uncharted depth of magical realism. The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle is Murakami's first novel, in which there are two levels of literary musicality. Various areas from Giacomo Rossini's opera, The Thieving Magpie, serve as leitmotifs in accompanying and guiding the main character and his dominant voice in the story of his endeavors, which is employed at key moments in the development of the plot. On the other hand, Okada Toru's discursive practice is challenged by Lieutenant Mamiya's voice, reminiscing about the horrors of war, which he had witnessed and which had marked him for the rest of his life. Lieutenant Mamiya's voice is a poignant reminder of the futility of mental resistance in the disturbing stories about his activities in Outer Mongolia in the 1930s, while at the same time disrupting the traditional construction of the narrative flow. His voice emerges as an unexpected event within the already confusing plot development and ultimately takes over roughly 1/3 of the entire novel. It creates a sense of dislocation within the storytelling filter that separates dream and nightmare, fantasy and reality in the fluid landscape of individual memories, aspirations, and fears. This occurs beyond the superficial musicality often encountered in Murakami's literary works until that point. The intertwining of the two voices creates a specific emotional tension between the narration and the musical level, to be released by occasional abrupt plunges into magical events and adventures. The rudimentary polyphony between Toru's and Mamiya's voices underscores the vitality of conjugal life competing with the historical atrocities in Japan's history of the first half of the 20th century, more specifically pre-World War II and Japan's occupation of China. Within the generous framework of a late modern Bildungsroman, that is, a novel of formation, the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle offers insights into the coping mechanisms of social actors caught in the fantastic labyrinth of emotional traumas, while challenging and transcending the human condition. Apart from Okada Toru's main voice, there are two further discursive lines which counterpoint and highlight his position, and without any of them developing into a narrative structure of its own. Kasahara Mei's opinions revealed in their conversations, indicating deep levels of the human dissolution in late modernity, and the vain march towards an unnecessary death. Wataru Noboru's antagonistic talks about the brutal superficiality of the celebrities' polish and their intransigence in promoting a spoiled, seductive image within the all-pervasive culture of entitlement. Additional characters, the sisters Kano Malta and Kano Kreta, Akasaka Nutmeg and her voiceless son Cinnamon, the bizarre Kasahara Mei, Toru's brother-in-law, the disturbed Wataru Noboru, etc., serve as chess-like figures in the fantastic spider net surrounding the main character Okada Toru and strangely crisscrossing the quotidian reality with a dried-up well which mediates the access between worlds. The well challenges the perception and processing of the universe habitually accepted as the real one, and allows or even facilitates the escape into a parallel world, either signified by dreams or by the historical past. It functions as a coping mechanism in bringing to a common denominator different lifestyles, the Japanese, European, US American, in themselves contradictory voices in the inner space of the late modern individual, stranded in a labyrinth of emotions and lacking the skills to find his or her way back to normality and equilibrium. In the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, the monodic discourse, evolving into a two-voice polyphony, surpasses the superficiality of musical quotations and moves towards a more playful experimentation with deeper meanings of arts and their intricate interactions in representing the human existence and the world. Like in Hermann Hesse's The Glass Bead Game from 1931, published between 1931 and 1943, and in German, Das Glasperlenspiel, music serves both as connection between stages in an individual's life and as Ariadne's thread during an individual's overcoming of life's challenges and ultimatums. Just as the well is a transitory space between the real and the fantastic, between the possible and the probable, music is facilitating the transition by inspiring the narrator, or the individual within the large narrative called life, to transcend his limited experiences and to aspire for infinity. Toro's quest for his cat and then for his wife is more than an allegory of the late modern social actor's quest for identity and significance in the culture supermarket, while repressing feelings of worthlessness and fears of failure. It is a choice of faith and of hope at the climax of disenchantment and disillusionment, when all gods are dead and all mysteries disclosed. Moreover, it is not the feudal past in the future envisioned in Hesse's The Glass Bead Game, with its archaic hierarchies and rules never discussed or displayed openly, but it takes place in our time with its disembedded hierarchies and rules continuously renegotiated and reevaluated. As such, it moves painfully close to the reality of the readers. Classical music appears as an external validation to this confusing individual narrative and debates the question of life. Is it a compelling journey or a massive joke? Within the discontinuous polyphonic discourse, encompassing multi-layered stories of loss and absence, of promiscuity and marital longing, of psychological pain and emotional escapism, the individual is solely an insignificant tool in the ongoing mechanization process of social alienation and urban isolation. The return to a safe space of established values and guidelines might seem, until a certain degree of literary involvement and cultural consumption, in the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle as expressed by the incessantly resurfacing Rossini's overtones, the solution to current contradictory loyalties and mixed feelings of belonging dispersed worldwide. The Zen-like abstractedness of the novel, the mental resistance to logical conclusions and to emotional developments are elegantly counterpointed by musical recurrences, comforting in their unifying force as undisputed reference and value systems. So this would be from me for today. Thank you for listening, and I'm very much looking forward to welcoming you here very soon again. Love and peace to you all.